Well, CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is joining us now from Jerusalem to tell us what lies ahead. Chris, Netanyahu has, what, 59 seats, 60 seats? He needs 61. What do you think he's got to do?
Well, right now, Pat, he's got a couple of options. First of all, that's the question of the hour right here. One thing, the final vote hasn't come in. Right now, there's about 90% of the vote. The final vote will come in by Thursday. They still need to count soldiers and diplomats and even people that were quarantined from the coronavirus. So that will be one way they can get it. If they get 61 seats, they can have a government unobstructed. As John referred to in his report, right now they're actually in talks with some of these candidates, these members of parliament from the Blue and White Party. If they can get just a couple of them to defect, come over to the to Likud and to Netanyahu's government, they could form a government. And Pat, one other point, there's tremendous public pressure right now not to have a fourth election. So that's going to be in Netanyahu's favor as well.
Well, the turnout from the Israelis is astounding. How many people, the percentage of people who voted in this election?
That's right. There was more voters since 1999, about over 70% of the population. And right now, Pat, you know, a lot of people are calling Netanyahu like a political magician. He's pulled a political rabbit out of his hat. And how did he do it? He did it because he had a positive campaign. He was able to bring and target maybe 300,000 Likud voters that weren't in the last September's election. They were able to target them, and he went out there. He was a tireless campaigner. He was able to do 5 and 6 rallies in a day, and because of all that, they were able to make that switch. Back in September, they were 4 or 5 seats down. Now they're 4 or 5 seats up. Makes a huge difference. And he might be on the precipice of forming a government for the first time, Pat, in over a year.
Have you identified a couple of those blue and white folks who might be, I hate to use the term defector, but would come over and help form a government?
Well, there's one they talk about in the Labor Party right now. There's 4 or 5 in the blue and white they're actually talking to. Many of those people aren't coming out publicly. And those Likud members that are in discussions with them, they're not saying who they're talking to. But like I said, Pat, there's really a pressure in the Israeli public not to go to a fourth election. So they're saying that those people, if they come over to Likud, they won't be seen as traitors. Right now, at least publicly, blue and white is saying they're going to stick together. But Pat, you know, they have formed their government as 3 political parties for anybody but Bibi, and that didn't seem to work with Israeli voters.
What about this indictment thing? It sounded kind of specious that he had a deal with Bezek to get favorable publicity, and this was a indictable offense. I mean, what is the story behind all that?
Well, right now, that's the huge question overlooming right now. The final vote tally is on March 17th. He goes to trial. I talked to a legal expert earlier today who said, first of all, he can ask, like any defendant, that the trial would be delayed. But it also could be a constitutional crisis, because right now there was a motion filed in the Supreme Court to stop Netanyahu from forming a government. That, for technical reasons, that motion was delayed. But now that he is prime minister, the motion is that a prime minister cannot form a government if he's indicted. We'll see what happens on that. That's the next big hurdle that he needs to file. But Pat, in the last several months, he really has been a political magician that faced all sorts of obstacles, and right now he could be on the verge of forming that new government. Well,
Chris, in my opinion, the Israeli people understand the challenges they're facing from Iran and from other sources, and they want a strong leader who will carry them through those crises. Am I reading too much into that?
Not at all, Pat. I think most people here, well, a majority, not everybody, obviously, but that really see Netanyahu for 10 years. He's led through security challenges, economic challenges, diplomatic successes. Many people see him as the man that can really lead Israel into the future and qualified as the best prime minister. So you're reading that just right.